So, liebe Bieringers, heute mal wieder was in Englisch und ich bin hier mit Matt and I actually do not know how to pronounce your
It's
your
not
family.
easy. Yeah, so it's Brynildson, Matt Brynildson.
Brynildson, okay.
Yeah.
Is this? It sounds a little bit Nordish, Swedish.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
on my father's side, my grandfather was Norwegian. Yeah.
Okay, hey, did it right. So, you're the head brewer from Firestone, is that right?
Yeah, Firestone Walker is a brewery in central coastal California. We're a regional player, so we sell most of our beer in California or the West Coast. We focus on, a little bit of everything, but we're famous for hop-forward IPAs, West Coast style IPAs, but we also make session beers, lagers, barrel-aged beers, a little bit of everything.
Okay, so how big is the Firestone brewery?
So we're in and around, say, a 500,000 hectoliter a year brewery, so not a small brewery by craft beer standards, but of course California is 40 million people, there's a lot of beer drinkers, and so the brewery has grown over the last 30 years to be a significant brewery in California.
Oh, very good. So when did you join the brewery?
So I've been there for 23 years.
That's a while, yeah.
Yeah, I started in 2001. The brewery was only 9,000 hectoliters at that time.
Well,
so I got
okay.
to watch this beautiful growth. So I've been there for some time now.
I guess so. So how was your way into the beer business?
Yeah, so it's probably a common story that you've heard before.
Maybe.
I started as a home brewer.
Okay.
Yep, in university, and I just got bitten by the bug and couldn't help myself. Just was kind of obsessed with home brewing. I was a chemistry major, so it kind of fit. And then I got so lucky. I interned at a spice extraction company that was making hop extracts for the brewing industry. And so I started as a hop chemist. Okay. Even before I was old enough to drink. And they supported my home brewing fetish, and they sent me to brewing school. So they sent me to the Siebel Institute of Brewing Technology. And so I was trained as a brewer and realized that I could be a brewer professionally. Yeah. So then I later became a brewer for Goose Island Beer Company in Chicago, Illinois, another famous brewery. Got to design some beers there and learn how to brew there, and then later went to the West Coast to be a brewer there.
Just for the folks, if you hear some squeaking in the background, it's the brewers over there, and they turn in the
mash.
The mash, ja. So, genau, also da drüben wird gerade gemasht und deswegen, also okay. So, you're one of the lucky guys, like most of the brewers, which can work in their hobby.
Yeah.
What means you need another hobby? So what is this guy doing when he is not brewing?
My hobbies include hiking and camping, of course. I have young children, so most of my hobbies are centered around raising kids at this point, camping and the like. I'm into music though, so I'm a drummer. So I play in a band now and again, and kind of encourage my kids in music as well. And those are some of my
So what kind of music?
I've played in funk bands. Okay. I played in jazz bands, but most of it's rock and roll.
Yeah. The good old rock and roll.
Yes.
Well, back to the beer. You said you do a little bit of everything. Is there something in the beer styles where your heart is going to?
Well, I mean, specific to the brewery, our brewery started in 1996, and the owners were winemakers before they were brewers. And so they developed this program that was kind of reflective or inspired by the Burton Union systems in the middle part of the UK. So the Burton Union system. And so they created what they call the Firestone Union. So we take new medium toast American oak barrels, and we do primary fermentation of English-inspired pale ale in these barrels, and it creates this beautiful oak-flavored beer. So we always talk about the barrel being the fifth element, water, malt, hops, yeast, and then wood. And that inspired the brewery then later to develop a barrel aging program. So the brewery is known for a few different things, but I think what we're best known for is our use of barrels, in integrating barrels into the brewing process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just started finding out that I'm very, very into aged beers.
Yeah, okay.
So, which is also a very expensive hobby.
Yes.
Because if you buy aged beers, it costs a lot usually.
Yeah.
So I always wonder, you never know when you age a beer what in the end comes out. So it's a barrel of surprise then.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So how does it works with your batches? Can't be big batches of barrel aged beers. So
no, it's a relatively small program, and so when in the barrel aging program, we've focused mainly, and I think we have the best success using spirits barrels. Mm-hmm. So in the United States, it's easy to obtain bourbon barrels. So in the making of American bourbon, you can only use the barrel once. And so the distiller will age bourbon for, the good bourbons are 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, and the spirit just soaks into the wood. And when they dump out the spirits, if they put a bung in right away and send it to us, the barrel is sterile from having all that booze in it. And when we put a beer in, it immediately increases the alcohol percentage by about 3%. And so that helps stabilize the beer as well. And so we have really good success with those beers. And so we'll typically age them for about 1 year, maybe 2 years. And at that point in time, when we put it into the bottle, it's perfect to drink then, and it tends to hold up really well for 10 years or more. We have beers that are still tasting great 10 years later.
So that's the most interesting thing on aged beers for me, that you can still have them for years and years and years. And the most interesting thing is to follow how the taste changes.
Yeah.
Like first year, second year, third year.
Yeah.
So do you have an archive of the beers?
We do. We do, and we're always surprised when we dip in these beers that we feel like should probably have fallen apart by this time still taste good. We have another barrel program where it's a mixed culture, mixed fermentation program. So there's Brettanomyces involved. And as you know, those beers develop even more interestingly over time as the Brett protects the beer, but then also produces flavors. It could be acidity and things like this. So they're completely separate programs. They never cross paths, let's say, and they make distinctively different beers.
So what's your favorite beer then? I know it's a difficult question.
No, it's not a difficult question because I love, being that we're in California, we not only make these barrel-aged beers, but we make a lot of big IPAs. We sell more IPA, than just about anything else. But at my heart, and I don't just say this because I'm talking to you, it's German-inspired or European-inspired Pilsner beer.
Okay.
And I really can't get enough of it, and I'm fascinated with making Pilsner beer. And for the people who are brewers out there, or at least are familiar with Pilsner beer, it's one of those styles that encompasses everything I love in brewing because it's very technical. It's difficult to make it well. It always incorporates hops and expresses hops really nicely. And they're very sessionable. They're relatively low alcohol and easy to drink. And I just can't get enough of them. So if I could only make one beer and drink one beer for the rest of my life, it would be Pilsner beer.
All right. That's a word, I guess.
That's true.
So the last thing I'm interested in to ask, because you mentioned the IPAs, lately I met a couple of people, they said you can also age IPAs. So if you have them on a high alcohol volume, it is, if you age them, the hops are going down, but then on a certain point, they taste ugly, and after that point, there come new flavors to the IPAs. Have you checked this out in your brewery too?
We've checked it out, and to be honest with you, I think maybe because I'm a brewer, and nothing is harder for a brewer than to taste old beer that's degraded from how you expected it to taste. So for me, and I understand what you're talking about, like IPAs go through a really interesting flavor change, but for me, because I'm so used to fresh IPAs, I can't get past that. So it'd be really hard for me. I'd be hard pressed to find an old aged IPA that I wouldn't be somehow disappointed in. But I totally understand what you're talking about. And I think for me, like a double IPA that ages gracefully would be more like a barley wine, a hoppy barley wine. That would age gracefully if the hops fade away and maybe the malt comes forward and has enough booze and alcohol to really make it interesting, then maybe that would be okay.
All right, I understand. When you make an IPA and you have it like very, very fresh, very crisp, is that the point when you like it most? Because sometimes for me, then the hops are too heavy, so I like it more to be in the bottle like 1 or 2 weeks.
No, I can understand that. I think it would depend a little bit on the beer. So traditional West Coast IPA, it's not traditional, right? It's a new beer, but in the way they've been made for 20 years, sometimes they're too bitter at the start, and so you want that to mellow a little bit. But what I'm really excited about are what I call new age IPAs, where we actually lower the bitterness down and really concentrate the aroma hops. And in that case, they taste best the day they are packaged.
Okay.
Because there's not too much bitterness, and there's so much beautiful floral and tropical aroma that they're just delicious, fresh. So I think the evolution of IPA is what I'm excited about, because I think IPAs, and to take this full circle, I think that brewers are focusing on IPAs and making them more like Pilsners, where they drink really nice fresh, and they're more integrated and they're more, maybe lower bitterness and more aromatics.
So great. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Pleasure to meet you.
And I hope we will meet again.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye.